When a frail 76-year-old woman stood frozen at a busy Chicago intersection, clutching heavy grocery bags with trembling hands, she had no idea her life was about to change forever. The traffic light turned green, but Evelyn couldn't move fast enough. People rushed past her like she was invisible. Cars honked impatiently. She felt completely alone in a sea of strangers, until a tall man in a baseball cap and sunglasses appeared beside her. "Ma'am, would you like some help?" he asked with a warm, kind voice. Without waiting for an answer, this mysterious stranger took her grocery bags and walked her safely across the street. But he didn't just leave after that. He insisted on carrying her bags all the way home, up 3 flights of broken stairs. He stayed for tea. He listened to her stories. He called her every single evening at 7 o'clock for 2 whole weeks. This stranger became her friend, pulling her out of 2 years of crushing loneliness after her husband's death. Evelyn had no idea who he really was. She just knew he was kind, that he made her feel seen again, that talking to him gave her hope to keep living. But when this mysterious friend flew her across the country on a private plane to watch her 12-year-old grandson Marcus play in the biggest basketball game of his life, everything was about to be revealed. As Marcus made an impossible last-second shot to win the championship, the gymnasium erupted in chaos. The crowd started whispering. Phones came out. Parents rushed forward in disbelief, because someone finally recognized who had been sitting in the front row the entire time. The kind stranger who helped an old lady cross the street wasn't just anyone. He was someone the whole world knew, someone whose face had been on posters and commercials for decades, someone who changed basketball forever. But who was he really? And why would someone so famous spend 2 weeks calling an elderly woman every night just to make sure she was okay? Watch this whole story to find out how one simple act of kindness on a busy street led to the most incredible reveal and changed an entire family's life forever. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. The traffic light at the corner of Michigan Avenue and East Pearson Street had been green for exactly 3 seconds when Evelyn Hartwell realized she would never make it across in time. Her fingers ached from gripping the plastic handles of her grocery bags. Inside one bag, a carton of eggs pressed against a loaf of bread. In the other, canned soup cans clinked together with each small movement. The bags weren't heavy, not really, but at 76 years old, everything felt heavier than it used to. The crowd of people around her surged forward like a wave. Business suits, yoga pants, sneakers slapping against concrete. Everyone moved so fast, so sure of where they were going. Evelyn took one small step off the curb, then stopped. The crosswalk stretched before her like an ocean. Cars idled at the red light, engines rumbling with impatience. She knew what would happen. The light would turn yellow before she reached the middle, then red. Then those cars would honk and swerve around her like she was just another obstacle in their busy day. It had happened before. "Excuse me," someone muttered, bumping past her shoulder. Evelyn stumbled slightly, catching herself. The grocery bag swung wildly. For one terrible moment, she thought the eggs would fall, would crack open right there on the street, yolk running between the cracks in the sidewalk, like her dignity spilling out for everyone to see. But she held on. The light turned yellow. She hadn't moved. "Come on, lady!" a voice shouted from somewhere behind her. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. When had she become invisible? When had the world decided she didn't matter anymore? 2 years ago, Harold would have been beside her. He would have taken the grocery bags in one hand and held her elbow with the other. They would have crossed together, taking their time, not caring if the light changed. Harold never made her feel like a burden, but Harold was gone now. The light turned red. The moment had passed. She would have to wait for the next cycle. Maybe the one after that. "Ma'am?" The voice came from above her, way above her. Evelyn looked up and up and up. A man stood beside her. Tall, very tall. He wore a gray baseball cap pulled low over his eyes and dark sunglasses, even though the October sun was hidden behind clouds. A black jacket covered what looked like an expensive sweater. His jeans were crisp and dark, and his sneakers were so white they almost glowed. "Ma'am, would you like some help?" His voice was warm, like honey and tea. Kind. Evelyn blinked. "I'm sorry." The street. He gestured toward the crosswalk with a gentle smile. "Would you like some help getting across?" Before she could answer, before she could say she didn't want to be a burden, that she could manage, that he probably had somewhere important to be, he reached down and took both grocery bags from her hands. The relief in her fingers was immediate. "Let's get you across safely," he said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. As if helping an old lady cross the street was exactly what he'd planned to do today. The light turned green again. This time, Evelyn moved forward. The man walked beside her, matching her slow pace, step for step. His long legs could have covered the distance in a few strides, but he stayed right next to her, the grocery bags hanging from his hands like they weighed nothing at all. Halfway across, Evelyn glanced at the cars waiting at the light. Usually drivers looked annoyed. They tapped their steering wheels, checked their phones, glared at whoever was slowing them down. But today, something was different. The drivers were staring, but not with annoyance. They were staring at the man beside her. One woman in a silver car had her mouth hanging open. A teenage boy in the back seat of another car fumbled for his phone, his eyes wide. "You okay?" the man asked, noticing she'd slowed. "Yes, I'm fine." Evelyn focused on her feet, on moving one foot in front of the other. "Thank you for this. You didn't have to." "Of course I did," he said simply. They reached the other side just as the light turned yellow. Safe. Together. Evelyn expected him to hand her the bags and disappear back into the crowd. That's what people did. One good deed, then gone, rushing off to their real lives. But he didn't leave. Instead, he adjusted his grip on her grocery bags and asked, "Where are you headed? Let me walk you home." "These bags look heavy." And for the first time in 2 years, Evelyn Hartwell didn't feel invisible anymore. "Oh, I couldn't possibly ask you to do that," Evelyn said, even as hope flickered in her chest like a candle in the wind. "You must have somewhere important to be." The man adjusted his baseball cap with his free hand. "Right now, the most important place I can be is making sure you get home safely." "Where do you live?" "Just 6 blocks that way." Evelyn pointed east toward the lake. "It's really not far. I can manage from here." 6 blocks is 6 blocks. His voice was firm but gentle. "And I've got nothing but time today. Come on, let's go." Before she could protest again, he started walking in the direction she'd pointed. Evelyn had no choice but to follow, though something warm was spreading through her chest. When was the last time someone had insisted on helping her? When was the last time anyone had made her feel like she mattered? They walked in silence for half a block. The Chicago wind picked up, carrying the smell of roasting chestnuts from a street vendor. October leaves, red and gold and orange, skittered across the sidewalk like tiny dancers. "Beautiful day," the man said, looking up at the gray sky as if it were bright blue. Evelyn followed his gaze. She'd been so focused on getting through her errands that she hadn't noticed the day at all. "I suppose it is," she said softly. "You do this every week? The grocery shopping?" "Every Tuesday." The words came out flat, automatic. "It's my routine." "That's good. Routines are important." He shifted the bag slightly. "What else do you do during the week?" Evelyn felt her throat tighten. What did she do? She watched television. She looked at old photographs. She waited for the phone to ring. "Oh, you know, this and that. Keeping busy." The lie hung in the air between them. They waited at another crosswalk. A bus roared past, belching diesel fumes. The man glanced down at her, and even though she couldn't see his eyes behind the sunglasses, she felt like he could see right through her. "What about family?" he asked as they crossed. "Do you have family nearby?" And there it was, the question that always hurt. "I have a daughter, Patricia. She lives in Seattle." Evelyn tried to keep her voice cheerful, bright. "She has her own family now. 2 boys. They're wonderful kids. She sends pictures." "That's nice." A pause. "Does she visit often?" "Oh, she's very busy. Her husband has a demanding job. And the boys have school and sports and—" Evelyn stopped herself. Why was she making excuses? "She visited last Christmas. We talked on the phone every few weeks." Every few weeks. Sometimes a month would pass. Patricia always sounded rushed, distracted. "I'll call you back later, Mom," she'd say. Sometimes she did. Sometimes she didn't. "And you mentioned boys. Do you have a son too?" Evelyn nodded. "Robert, he's in the military. Deployed overseas right now. I don't know where exactly. He can't tell me. She felt tears threatening again. He emails when he can. Short messages, mostly just to say he's safe. That must be hard, the man said quietly. Not knowing, worrying. It's what mothers do, Evelyn said, surprised by the bitterness in her own voice. We worry. We wait. We hope our children remember we exist. She clapped a hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. They're good kids. They have their own lives. That's how it should be. The man was quiet for a moment. They passed a coffee shop where people sat at outdoor tables, despite the chill. Laptops open, earbuds in, lost in their own worlds. I know something about that, he finally said. His voice carried a weight that made Evelyn look up at him. Being busy, missing the important moments, making excuses for why you can't be there. He adjusted his sunglasses. Sometimes the people we love need us to just show up. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Now. There was something in his tone, regret, pain, that made Evelyn wonder what he was really talking about. A group of teenagers walked past them, talking loudly about a video game. One of them glanced at the man, did a double take, and grabbed his friend's arm. They both stared. Yo, is that? One started to say, but his friend shook his head quickly, pulling him along. Nah, man, can't be. What would he be doing here? The man pulled his cap lower and hunched his shoulders slightly, making himself smaller somehow, even though that seemed impossible given his height. Evelyn frowned. Do people often mistake you for someone else? He laughed, a genuine sound that made his whole face light up. You'd be surprised. I've got one of those faces, I guess. They turned onto a quieter street lined with brownstone buildings. Evelyn's apartment was 3 blocks away now. She found herself walking slower, not wanting this strange, wonderful moment to end. Do you live in Chicago? She asked. I have a place here, he said carefully, but I travel a lot. Work takes me all over. What kind of work do you do? Another pause. He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. I'm retired, actually. Used to work in sports. Now I mostly focus on other projects, helping young people, trying to give back. That's wonderful, Evelyn said. Not many people think about giving back these days. My mother taught me that. His voice softened with memory. She always said it doesn't matter how much you have or how successful you become. What matters is how you treat people, especially people who can't do anything for you in return. Evelyn felt something crack open inside her chest. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She was. Past tense. I miss her every day. I wish... He trailed off, then shook his head. I wish I'd listened to her more when she was here. Really listened. They walked another block in comfortable silence. Evelyn studied him from the corner of her eye. There was something familiar about him, but she couldn't place it. Maybe it was just that he reminded her of kindness itself, and kindness had become so rare she'd almost forgotten what it looked like. A car slowed down beside them, a black sedan with tinted windows. The driver's window lowered, and a man with silver hair leaned out, his eyes wide with recognition. Oh my God, is that... But the light changed, and traffic pushed the car forward before he could finish. The man beside Evelyn tensed, his jaw tightened beneath the shadow of his cap. Are you in some kind of trouble? Evelyn asked suddenly, worry flooding through her. Are you hiding from someone? He looked down at her, and even through the sunglasses she could sense his surprise. Then he smiled, a real, honest smile that transformed his face. No trouble, Mrs. Hartwell, I promise. He searched for words. I prefer my privacy sometimes. The world can be overwhelming. Sometimes it's nice to just be a regular person helping another person. No cameras, no crowds, just human connection. Does that make sense? It made perfect sense. More sense than anything had in a long time. Yes, Evelyn said. It makes perfect sense. They rounded the final corner, and her apartment building came into view. The old brick structure looked tired in the afternoon light, paint peeling around the windows. The front steps cracked and uneven. Home, such as it was. And suddenly, Evelyn didn't want this walk to end. Didn't want to climb those stairs alone. Didn't want to close the door on this strange, wonderful connection with a kind stranger who had made her feel like a person again instead of just an invisible old woman. But the walk was over. They had arrived. Evelyn stared at the building's front entrance with a sinking feeling in her stomach. The out-of-order sign still hung on the elevator door, taped there with yellowing adhesive that had been there for 3 weeks now. Mr. Kowalski, the building superintendent, kept promising it would be fixed any day now. Any day now had yet to come. "This is me," Evelyn said, trying to keep the dread out of her voice. "Third floor. Thank you so much for carrying my bags. I can take them from here." The man looked at the building, then at the door, then down at her. Even with the sunglasses hiding his eyes, she could tell he was doing math in his head. "Third floor," he repeated, "and the elevator." "Broken." She tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "Has been for a while, but it's good exercise, right? Keeps me young." It didn't keep her young, it exhausted her. Last Tuesday, she'd had to stop twice on the stairs, sitting on the steps to catch her breath, her heart hammering in her chest. She'd been terrified someone would find her there, collapsed like a helpless animal. The man didn't say anything. He just opened the door and held it for her. "You don't have to," Evelyn started. "Mrs. Hartwell," his voice was kind but firm, "I'm carrying these bags to your door. That's final. Lead the way." Something in his tone reminded her of Harold, that same gentle stubbornness. When Harold decided to do something kind, there was no talking him out of it. The building's lobby smelled like old carpet and someone's cooking, curry maybe, from the Patels on the second floor. The walls were a dingy beige that might have been white 20 years ago. Mail slots lined one wall, most of them stuffed with junk mail and grocery store flyers. Evelyn led him to the stairwell, her hand gripping the railing before they even started. The stairs stretched upward, steep and unforgiving. "Take your time," the man said from behind her. "No rush at all." She climbed slowly, one step at a time. Her knees protested with each rise. First floor landing. She paused, breathing harder than she wanted to admit. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine," she lied. "Just pacing myself." He didn't comment on the lie, just waited patiently while she caught her breath. They started up the second flight. Halfway up, Evelyn had to stop again. Her legs were trembling now and sweat beaded on her forehead, despite the chill in the stairwell. "Mrs. Hartwell, may I ask you something?" "Of course," she managed between breaths. "How often do you leave your apartment?" The question surprised her. "Every Tuesday for groceries." "That's it? Just once a week?" Evelyn nodded, not trusting her voice. "Why only once?" She looked back at him, at this tall stranger who was still holding her grocery bags without complaint, who hadn't rushed her, who genuinely seemed to care about the answer. "Because these stairs are hard," she admitted quietly. "Because I'm tired. Because," her voice cracked, "because there's nothing else to go out for." The words hung in the cold stairwell air like fog. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Tell me about your husband. Harold, right? How did you mentioned him earlier, when we were crossing the street." Had she? Evelyn couldn't remember, but yes, she supposed she had. "We met at a county fair in 1968, she began, grateful for the distraction from her burning legs. "I was 18, he was 20. He won me a stuffed elephant at the ring toss." She smiled at the memory. "That elephant was hideous, bright purple with crossed eyes. But I loved it because he tried so hard to win it for me." "Do you still have it?" "On my bed," Evelyn said. 58 years later, and that silly elephant still sits on my pillow." They started climbing again. Second floor landing. One more flight to go. "What was he like?" the man asked. Evelyn found that talking made the climbing easier. "Patient, so patient. He taught high school history for 40 years. Every summer he'd take me somewhere new. Nothing fancy. We didn't have much money, but we saw the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, the Redwood Forest. He said life was about collecting memories, not things. Smart man, the smartest." Her voice wavered. "He died 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. It happened so fast. One day we were planning our next trip, and 3 months later..." She couldn't finish. They climbed in silence for a moment. "He made me promise something," Evelyn continued, surprised she was sharing this with a stranger. "Before he died, he made me promise I'd keep living, not just existing." that I'd find joy again. She laughed bitterly. I'm not doing a very good job of keeping that promise. They reached the third-floor landing. Evelyn's apartment was the second door on the right. She fumbled in her purse for her keys. Why not? The man asked gently. Why not what? Why aren't you keeping your promise to him? Evelyn's hand stilled on her keyring. Because everything reminds me of what I've lost. Because my children are gone, living their own lives as they should. Because I'm old and tired and invisible, and it's easier to just stop trying. She found her keys and moved toward the door, but the man's next words stopped her. Mrs. Hartwell, can I tell you something my mother told me once? Evelyn turned back to face him. He set the grocery bags down gently on the floor. She said that grief is love with nowhere to go. But she also said that the people we love don't want us to stop living. They want us to honor them by finding joy again, by being present, by showing up for the people who still need us. His voice carried such weight, such personal pain, that Evelyn knew he wasn't just repeating wisdom. He was speaking from experience. Do you have regrets? She asked softly. The man was quiet for a long moment. Yes, he finally said. I lost my father. We had a complicated relationship. I was young and ambitious and thought I had all the time in the world to fix things between us. I didn't. He took a breath. And now I have 3 kids of my own. I love them more than life itself. But there were years, too many years, when work came first. When I missed games and recitals and bedtimes because I thought what I was doing was more important. Was it? Evelyn asked. No. The answer came quick and certain. Nothing is more important than the people who love you. I know that now. I'm trying to do better. But I can't get those years back. I can't undo the times I wasn't there. He looked at her directly, and even though she still couldn't see his eyes behind the sunglasses, she felt the intensity of his gaze. But you can still keep your promise to Harold. You can still choose to live. It's not too late, Mrs. Hartwell. It's never too late. Evelyn felt tears rolling down her cheeks. This stranger, this kind, mysterious stranger, had seen right into her heart. I don't know how, she whispered. One step at a time, he said. Just like these stairs. One step at a time. She nodded, unable to speak. He picked up the grocery bags again. Now let's get these inside. I want to make sure those eggs survive the journey. Evelyn unlocked her door, and they stepped into her small apartment. The space was neat but sparse, a lifetime compressed into 600 square feet. The walls were covered with photographs, her wedding day, Patricia and Robert as children, grandchildren she barely knew. The man paused at a photo on the wall near the door. It showed a young boy, maybe 12 years old, in a basketball uniform. He was mid-jump, reaching for the hoop, his face set with fierce determination. Who's this? The man asked, leaning closer. That's my grandson, Marcus, Evelyn said, pride creeping into her voice despite her sadness. Patricia's oldest boy. He loves basketball more than anything in the world. Does he play? Every single day. There's a park near their house and he's there for hours, practicing, rain or shine. She sighed. He dreams of playing professionally one day, in the NBA. The man studied the photo intently, his finger tracing the air near the image. What do you think of that dream? Evelyn hesitated. I think the chances are so small, you know. Maybe 1 in a million. I keep telling Patricia he should focus on his schoolwork. Have a backup plan. Be realistic. She expected the man to agree. Everyone always agreed. Dreams were nice, but reality was reality. Instead, he turned to face her. Dreams are important, Mrs. Hartwell. Sometimes they're all we have. And sometimes, if you work hard enough, if you want it bad enough, if you refuse to listen to people who tell you it's impossible, he paused. Well, sometimes impossible things happen. But the odds don't matter if you're willing to outwork everyone else. I've seen kids from nowhere become extraordinary. Kids who had every reason to quit but didn't. Kids who turned impossible dreams into reality. His voice intensified with passion. And I've seen incredibly talented kids give up because nobody believed in them. Because people told them to be realistic, to have a backup plan, to stop dreaming. Evelyn felt something shift inside her chest. Are you saying I shouldn't tell him to focus on school? I'm saying you should tell him to work hard at both, to chase his dream with everything he's got while being smart about his future. But mostly, he turned back to the photo of Marcus. I'm saying someone needs to believe in him. Really believe, not just say, "That's nice, honey," while secretly hoping he'll give up and choose something safer. The words hit Evelyn like a slap. Is that what she'd been doing? Protecting Marcus from disappointment by making sure he was already disappointed? The biggest disappointment, the man said quietly, is never trying at all. Evelyn stood frozen in her small living room, the man's words echoing in her mind. When had she become the person who crushed dreams instead of encouraging them? When had fear replaced hope? I didn't realize I was doing that, she said softly. Discouraging him, I mean. I thought I was protecting him. The man set the grocery bags on her kitchen counter, which was really just a small strip of laminate separating the living room from the tiny cooking area. Sometimes protection and belief look different. Sometimes the best protection we can give someone is the courage to try. He gestured to the photo wall, where dozens of images documented her life. Tell me about Marcus. What's he like? Evelyn moved closer to the photographs, her fingers reaching toward one of Marcus at his 10th birthday party. He's stubborn, so stubborn. Gets that from his mother. She smiled despite herself. When he decides he wants something, he doesn't give up. Last year, he practiced this one basketball shot, a three-pointer, I think they call it, for 3 months straight. Patricia said he'd come home every day with scraped knees and bruises, but he kept going back. Did he make the shot? Eventually, made it in his school championship game. His team won because of it. Evelyn's voice filled with pride. Patricia sent me a video. I must have watched it 100 times. The man was smiling now, a genuine expression that seemed to light up his whole face. That's not just talent, Mrs. Hartwell. That's character. That's someone who understands that excellence requires sacrifice. That's exactly the kind of person who can make impossible dreams come true. You really think so? I know so. He said it with such certainty that Evelyn almost believed him. She moved toward the kitchen, suddenly aware of her role as hostess. Would you like some water? Or I could make tea. It's the least I can do after you carried my groceries up 3 flights of stairs. The man checked his watch, an expensive-looking piece that caught the light from her small window. Evelyn expected him to decline, to say he needed to leave, that he'd already given her too much of his time. Tea sounds perfect, he said instead. Relief and joy flooded through Evelyn in equal measure. Really? You're sure? You must have so many things to do. Mrs. Hartwell, there is nowhere else I need to be right now. Tea would be an honor. She busied herself filling her kettle, the familiar routine calming her nerves. The man took off his jacket and hung it carefully on the back of one of her 2 kitchen chairs. He kept his baseball cap and sunglasses on, though, even inside. Do you have children? Evelyn asked as she set out 2 mismatched mugs, the only nice ones she had left after years of broken handles and chips. The man's expression shifted. Pride mixed with something deeper. Regret. Longing. 3. 2 sons and a daughter. They're all grown now. Making their own way in the world. That must make you proud. It does. He paused. But it also makes me wish I'd done some things differently. Evelyn placed a tea bag in each mug. How do you mean? I traveled a lot for work, was gone more than I was home, especially when they were young. I told myself I was doing it for them, providing for them, building something that would secure their future. His voice dropped. But what they really needed was me, present, there, not just financially but emotionally. The kettle began to whistle. Evelyn poured the hot water, watching the tea bags release their color into the clear liquid, like clouds spreading across the sky. Are you close now? She asked gently. We're working on it. Some relationships are easier to rebuild than others. He accepted the mug she offered with a grateful nod. My daughter and I talk often. We've always had a good connection. My older son and I are finding our way back to each other. My younger son, he trailed off. That's still complicated, but I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. Try. They sat at her small table, knees nearly touching in the cramped space. Evelyn pulled out a tin of store-bought butter cookies, suddenly embarrassed by how plain they were. I'm sorry, I don't have anything better to offer. These are perfect, the man said, taking one. My mom used to buy these exact cookies. I haven't had them in years. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping tea. Outside the window, Chicago continued its endless motion. Cars honking, sirens wailing, the elevated train rumbling past 3 blocks away. Do you get lonely? The man asked suddenly. The question was so direct, so honest that Evelyn didn't think to lie. Every single day. When's the last time you had company? A visitor? Evelyn thought about it. Patricia visited last Christmas. She stayed for 3 days. Before that, she couldn't remember. My neighbor Dorothy checks on me sometimes, knocks on the door to make sure I'm still alive. The words came out more bitter than she intended. What about friends? People you used to spend time with? Most of them are gone, Evelyn said quietly. Harold and I had a whole group we used to do things with. Game nights, dinners. But after he died, she stirred her tea even though she'd added nothing to it. They stopped calling. I think I reminded them of what they might lose, their own mortality. It was easier for them to just move on. That must have hurt. It did. It does. She looked up at him. Do you know what the worst part is? I've become afraid. Afraid to reach out. Afraid to leave my apartment. Afraid to hope for anything because hope just leads to more disappointment. The man set down his mug. Mrs. Hartwell, can I tell you what I've learned? Fear is normal. Fear is human. But living in fear? That's the real tragedy. Not the disappointments, not the losses, but letting fear win. Easy to say, Evelyn said, surprising herself with a flash of anger. But when you're my age, when everyone you love is gone, or too busy for you, when your own body betrays you with every flight of stairs, you're right, he interrupted. It's easy for me to say, and I don't want to minimize what you're going through. But I do know something about fear, about being so scared of failing that you stop trying, about being so afraid of getting hurt that you stop letting people in. He leaned forward, his voice intense. I spent years building walls, telling myself I didn't need help, that showing vulnerability was weakness, that admitting I was scared or lonely or struggling meant I had failed somehow. He shook his head. All that did was make me more alone, more isolated, more afraid. What changed? Evelyn asked. I realized that connection, real, honest, vulnerable connection, that's not weakness. That's the strongest thing we can do. Asking for help isn't failing. It's being human. He picked up his tea again. And sometimes the people we think are too busy, they're just waiting to be asked. They're just waiting to matter to someone. Evelyn felt tears building again. This stranger was saying everything she needed to hear. Things she hadn't even known she needed until the words filled the air between them. Patricia called last week, Evelyn admitted. She asked if I wanted to come visit for Thanksgiving. I said no. I told her I didn't want to be a burden, that the flight would be too hard, that she should spend the holiday with just her family. Did you mean it? No. The word came out as a whisper. I desperately want to go. I want to see my grandsons. I want to sleep in Patricia's guest room and help her cook and sit around the table with people who love me. But I was scared. Scared she was only asking out of obligation. Scared I'd get there and feel like an intruder in their lives. The man reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. His hand was large, warm, completely enveloping her small wrinkled one. Call her back, he said firmly. Tell her you changed your mind. Tell her you want to come. I promise you, I promise, she will be happy you said yes. But what if she's been waiting for you to say yes? What if she asked because she really wants you there? What if your grandchildren miss you? What if Marcus would love to show you his basketball moves in person instead of through a phone screen? Evelyn's tears spilled over. You don't understand. They have their own lives. I'm just the grandmother who sends birthday cards and calls once a month. I'm not part of their daily world anymore. Then become part of it, the man said with quiet intensity. It's not too late. It's never too late to choose connection over fear, to choose life over just existing. They sat in silence while Evelyn cried. The man didn't rush her, didn't try to fix it, didn't tell her to stop. He just sat there, his hand still covering hers, present and solid and real. Finally, when her tears slowed, she asked, Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much about a random old woman you helped across the street?" The man was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Because my mother died 5 years ago. And before she died, she was lonely. She was isolated. She was too proud to ask for help and too scared to reach out. And I was too busy, always too busy to notice until it was almost too late." His hand tightened slightly on hers. "In her last year, I finally slowed down. I visited more. I called every day. I tried to make up for all the years I'd been absent. But I can't get those years back. I can't undo the loneliness she felt." He looked directly at her. And even though she couldn't see his eyes, she felt the weight of his gaze. "So when I see someone who reminds me of her, someone who's struggling alone because they think they have to, I can't just walk past. I have to help. Because maybe, just maybe, I can do for you what I didn't do enough of for her." Evelyn understood then. This wasn't random kindness. This was atonement. This was love with nowhere else to go, finding a new place to land. "She would be proud of you," Evelyn said softly. "Your mother. She would be so proud of the man you've become." "I hope so," he said. "I really hope so." They finished their tea in companionable silence. And when the man finally stood to leave, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. She felt less alone. The man put his jacket back on and moved toward the door. Evelyn followed, suddenly desperate for him not to leave. The apartment would feel even emptier once he was gone, the silence even louder. "Thank you," she said, her voice small. "For everything. For the groceries, for the talk, for seeing me." He turned back, his hand on the doorknob. "Mrs. Hartwell, would it be all right if I called you? Just to check in, see how you're doing?" Evelyn's heart leaped. "You want to call me?" "I do. Very much." He pulled out his phone. "What's your number?" She recited it, hardly believing this was happening. He typed it in, then immediately her phone rang from where it sat on the kitchen counter. "Now you have my number too," he said. "It's saved as James." "James," Evelyn repeated. So that was his name. It suited him somehow. Strong but gentle. "If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Groceries. Help with something in the apartment. Just someone to talk to. Promise me you'll call." "I promise," Evelyn said, even though she knew she probably wouldn't. People said these things. They meant them in the moment. But then life got busy and promises faded like old photographs. As if reading her mind, James said, "I mean it, Mrs. Hartwell. I'll call you tomorrow evening. Around 7. Will you be home?" "I'm always home," she said, then felt embarrassed by how pathetic that sounded. But James just nodded. "Then I'll talk to you at 7 tomorrow." He opened the door, then paused. "One more thing. That promise you made to Harold about living and not just existing? Yes? Start with something small. One thing. Call Patricia about Thanksgiving, or take a different route on your grocery walk next week, or say hello to a neighbor you usually avoid. Just one small thing that's different from your routine. Can you do that?" Evelyn thought about it. One small thing. That didn't seem impossible. "I can try. That's all any of us can do." He smiled. "I'll see you soon, Mrs. Hartwell." And then he was gone, his tall frame disappearing down the stairwell. Evelyn closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. What had just happened? Who was James, really? And why did she feel like her life had just shifted on its axis? She moved to the window and looked down at the street. A moment later, James emerged from the building. He walked with an easy confidence, long strides carrying him quickly down the sidewalk. A black SUV pulled up beside him. The door opened and James climbed in. Through the tinted windows, Evelyn could just make out another person in the driver's seat. Then the vehicle pulled away, disappearing into Chicago traffic. Evelyn stood at the window for a long time, thinking about everything James had said, about dreams and fear and connection, about his mother and his regrets, about choosing life over mere existence. Her phone sat on the counter where she'd left it, James's number now saved in her contacts. She picked it up, scrolling until she found Patricia's name. Her finger hovered over the call button. What if Patricia had only invited her out of obligation? What if Evelyn was imposing? What if she got there and everyone was too busy to spend time with her? But then James's words echoed in her mind. What if she's been waiting for you to say yes? Before she could talk herself out of it, Evelyn pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Mom? Patricia's voice was breathless, like she'd been running. Is everything okay? You never called during the day. Because I'm too afraid, Evelyn thought. Too afraid of bothering you. Everything's fine, sweetie. I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving. A pause. Did you change your mind? Because, Mom, I really do want you to come. I know I asked last minute, and I know the flight is a hassle, but the boys have been asking about you and… Yes, Evelyn interrupted. Yes, I changed my mind. I'd love to come, if the invitation is still open. The squeal that came through the phone made Evelyn jump. Mom, really? Oh my God, that's wonderful. Marcus is going to be so excited. He's been working on this whole presentation to show you his basketball skills. He has? Evelyn's voice cracked. He practices his speech in the mirror, Patricia said, laughing. It's the cutest thing. He wants to impress his grandma. Tears rolled down Evelyn's cheeks. Her grandson wanted to impress her. She mattered to him. She wasn't just an obligation. Patricia, Evelyn said softly, I'm sorry. For what? For being distant, for making excuses, for not being more present in your lives. I've been so wrapped up in my own loneliness that I didn't realize you still wanted me around. Oh, Mom! Patricia's voice was thick with emotion. Of course we want you around. We've always wanted you around. I thought you were the one who wanted distance. After Dad died, you seemed to pull away from everyone. I didn't want to push. How much pain had they caused each other by assuming instead of asking? How many missed moments because both sides were too afraid to reach out? No more distance, Evelyn said firmly. I promise. No more pulling away. They talked for another 30 minutes. Patricia insisted on booking the flight herself, refusing to let Evelyn worry about the cost. They made plans, discussed what Evelyn should pack. Patricia talked about the boys, about Marcus's basketball obsession, and his younger brother Tyler's love of comic books. When they finally hung up, Evelyn felt lighter than she had in months, maybe years. She looked at the photo of Marcus in his basketball uniform, that fierce determination in his young face, that refusal to give up. Maybe she'd been discouraging him because she'd given up on her own dreams. Maybe seeing his hope reminded her of everything she'd lost. But James was right. Dreams mattered. And someone needed to believe in Marcus. Really believe she could be that person. The next evening, at exactly 7 o'clock, Evelyn's phone rang. The caller ID showed James. Her heart fluttered as she answered. Hello? Mrs. Hartwell, how are you this evening? They talked for 45 minutes. James asked about her day, and for the first time in forever, Evelyn actually had something to report. She told him about calling Patricia, about the Thanksgiving plans, about how excited Marcus was to see her. That's wonderful, James said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. See, one small step. It was more than small, Evelyn admitted. It felt huge, terrifying. The best things usually do. They talked about other things. James shared a story about his daughter, about how she'd called him that afternoon just to say hello. She never used to do that, he said, but lately she's been better about staying connected. It means everything. You're a good father, Evelyn said. I'm trying to be. That's all I can do now. Try. Before they hung up, James said, I'll call you tomorrow. Same time. You don't have to do that, Evelyn protested weakly. I know I don't have to. I want to. Is that okay? It's more than okay. The calls became a routine. Every evening at 7, James would call. Sometimes they talked for 20 minutes, sometimes for over an hour. He told her about his work, carefully, never revealing exactly what he did. But she gathered it involved helping young people achieve their dreams. She told him about her life, her memories, her slowly growing courage to reach out to the world again. On Thursday, Evelyn did something she hadn't done in a year. She baked cookies, real cookies, from scratch, using Harold's mother's recipe. She put half in a container and walked down the hall to Dorothy's apartment. Dorothy answered the door with surprise. "Evelyn, is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I made too many cookies. Would you like some?" They ended up having coffee together. Talking, really talking, not just the polite hallway exchanges they'd had for months. On Saturday, Evelyn took a different route to the grocery store. She walked past the park where children were playing. She stopped to watch for a few minutes, smiling at their laughter. On Tuesday, she went to the library, something she hadn't done since Harold died. She checked out 3 books and spent the afternoon reading, really reading, getting lost in stories instead of just staring at the television. Each small thing felt like a victory. Each step away from the darkness felt like coming back to life. And every evening James called. He cheered her victories. He listened to her fears. He shared his own struggles and triumphs. He never made her feel foolish or weak. He just made her feel seen. On Friday evening, a week after they'd met, James said something that made Evelyn's heart skip. "Mrs. Hartwell, I was wondering, Marcus's basketball game, the championship you mentioned." "Yes? What about it? When is it?" Evelyn thought for a moment. Patricia had mentioned it in their last call. "Next Friday, 6 o'clock Seattle time." "Why?" "I'd like to take you." Evelyn was so stunned she almost dropped the phone. "What?" "I'd like to take you to Marcus's game. I can arrange everything. The flight, the transportation. You'd go out Thursday evening, watch the game Friday, spend the weekend with your family, and come back Sunday. What do you think?" "James, I can't possibly let you do that. The expense isn't a problem for me," he said gently. "Mrs. Hartwell, it would be an honor to help you get there. Marcus wants you at his game. You want to be there. The only thing stopping you are logistics, so let me handle the logistics." "But why would you do this?" James was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with emotion. "Because my mom missed a lot of important moments in my life. Not because she didn't want to be there, but because she couldn't. Because life got in the way. Because logistics were hard and money was tight and she didn't want to be a burden." He paused. "I can't go back and bring her to those moments. But I can make sure you don't miss Marcus's moment. Please, let me do this." Evelyn was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes. Say you'll let me help you be there for your grandson." Through her tears, Evelyn smiled. "Yes. Yes, James. Thank you. Thank you so much." "Perfect. I'll pick you up next Thursday at 4. We'll fly out together." "Together? You're coming too?" James laughed. "I wouldn't miss it for the world. I love basketball, remember? Besides, someone needs to explain all the plays to you." After they hung up, Evelyn sat in her small apartment, overwhelmed by the kindness of this man she'd known for only a week. This stranger who had become a friend, this mysterious James who seemed to understand exactly what she needed. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of Marcus's photo on her wall. Then she sent it to James with a message. "Getting ready to cheer for my grandson. Thank you for helping me remember how to live." His response came immediately. "That's what friends do. See you Thursday." Friends. The word glowed on her screen. Evelyn Hartwell had a friend. Thursday afternoon arrived faster than Evelyn expected. She'd spent the week in a flutter of preparation, washing clothes, packing and repacking her small suitcase, trying on different outfits to decide what a grandmother should wear to a basketball game. Dorothy had helped her choose. "The blue sweater," her neighbor insisted. "It brings out your eyes. And comfortable shoes, Evelyn. You'll be doing more walking than you think." At 3:30, Evelyn sat by her window, suitcase by the door, hands folded in her lap. Her heart raced with excitement and terror in equal measure. What if she slowed James down? What if the travel was too hard? What if Marcus was disappointed to see her? But beneath the fear, something else stirred. Hope. Actual, real hope. At exactly 4 o'clock, her phone buzzed. "I'm downstairs," James's text read. Evelyn grabbed her suitcase and purse, locked her apartment, and made her way slowly down the 3 flights of stairs. When she pushed open the building's front door, James was waiting on the sidewalk beside the same black SUV from before. He wore dark jeans, a leather jacket, and that ever-present baseball cap and sunglasses. But when he saw her, his whole face broke into a warm smile. "Mrs. Hartwell, ready for an adventure?" "As ready as I'll ever be," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. James took her suitcase and helped her into the SUV. The interior was immaculate. Leather seats, tinted windows, enough room to stretch out comfortably. A driver sat up front, a kind-looking man with silver hair who introduced himself as Thomas. "Thomas has been with me for years," James said as he climbed in beside her. "He's the best driver in Chicago." "Second best," Thomas said with a grin. "My wife's the best." They drove through Chicago traffic toward O'Hare Airport. Evelyn watched the city pass by her window, the place she'd lived for 58 years but had stopped really seeing. "How are you feeling?" James asked. "Nervous," Evelyn admitted. "I haven't been on a plane in 5 years. Not since Harold got too sick to travel." "It's going to be fine. I'll be right there with you the whole time." At the airport, something strange happened. Instead of dropping them at the main terminal, Thomas drove to a different area, one Evelyn had never seen before. The sign read Private Aviation. "James," Evelyn said slowly, "where are we?" He looked slightly embarrassed. "I should have mentioned this. We're taking a private plane. I thought it would be more comfortable for you. No crowds, no long lines, no rushing to make connections." Evelyn's mouth fell open. "A private plane? James, who are you?" "Just someone who wants to help," he said gently. "Is this okay? I know it's a bit much." A bit much? Evelyn had never even imagined being on a private plane. But looking at James's concerned face, she realized he genuinely wanted her to be comfortable. This wasn't showing off. This was kindness in action. "It's more than okay," she said softly. "It's incredibly generous." The plane was small but luxurious. Cream-colored leather seats, polished wood accents, and windows that seemed twice the size of normal airplane windows. A flight attendant named Michelle greeted them warmly and helped Evelyn get settled. As they took off, Evelyn gripped the armrests. James reached over and placed his hand over hers, just like he had in her apartment. "Look out the window," he said. "Chicago is beautiful from up here." Evelyn looked. The city spread below them like a glittering toy. Lake Michigan stretching endlessly to the east. The setting sun painted everything in shades of orange and gold. "It's breathtaking," she whispered. "It really is," James agreed. But when Evelyn glanced at him, he wasn't looking out the window. He was looking at her, smiling at her wonder. They landed in Seattle just after 8 o'clock local time. Another SUV waited for them on the tarmac. This driver introduced herself as Sarah, and she drove them through the Seattle evening toward Patricia's house in the suburbs. Evelyn's hands trembled in her lap. What if they're disappointed? What if I say the wrong thing? What if Marcus thinks I'm just a silly old woman who doesn't understand basketball? "Mrs. Hartwell," James said firmly, "you are his grandmother. You are there to support him. That's all that matters. You don't need to understand every rule or know every play. You just need to be there, cheering for him. That's what he'll remember." They pulled up to a neat 2-story house with a basketball hoop in the driveway. Even in the dark, Evelyn could see a ball sitting beneath it, as if Marcus had been practicing right up until the last moment. The front door burst open and 2 boys came running out. Marcus was tall for 12, all long limbs and boundless energy. His younger brother Tyler was smaller, rounder, with glasses that kept sliding down his nose. "Grandma!" they shouted in unison. Evelyn barely had time to get out of the car before she was engulfed in hugs. Marcus squeezed her tight, and she felt wetness on her cheeks. Her tears or his, she couldn't tell. "You came," Marcus said, his voice cracking with emotion. "You really came." "I wouldn't miss it for the world," Evelyn said, holding him close. Patricia appeared in the doorway, hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She rushed forward and wrapped her arms around all 3 of them. "Mom," she whispered, "I'm so glad you're here." They stood there in a tangle of arms and tears and love until Tyler said, Who's the really tall guy?" Everyone turned to look at James, who had stepped back to give them space. He stood by the SUV, hands in his pockets, a soft smile on his face. "This is my friend James," Evelyn said, wiping her eyes. "He's the one who made this trip possible." Marcus's eyes went wide. He stared at James, then at Evelyn, then back at James. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Marcus," Patricia said. "What's wrong?" But Marcus just kept staring. James caught his eye and gave a subtle shake of his head, placing a finger briefly to his lips. Marcus understood immediately and closed his mouth, but his eyes were still huge with disbelief. "Nice to meet you all," James said, his voice easy and warm. "Mrs. Hartwell has told me so much about you." Patricia invited him in, insisting he stay for tea at least. James accepted graciously, and they all moved inside. The house was warm and lived in, filled with the comfortable chaos of family life. Tyler's comic books were spread across the coffee table. Marcus's basketball shoes sat by the door. Laces untied. Photos covered every surface. School pictures, vacation snapshots, moments frozen in time. As Patricia made tea, Marcus pulled Evelyn toward the living room. "Grandma, can I show you something?" He led her to a corner where a small trophy case stood. Inside were ribbons, medals, and awards, all basketball-related. Marcus pointed to an empty spot on the top shelf. "That's where tomorrow's trophy is going to go," he said with fierce determination. "The championship trophy. Our team has never won it before, but we're going to win it this year. I'm going to make sure of it." "That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself," Evelyn said gently, remembering her old fears about protecting him from disappointment. But then she thought of James's words, about dreams and hard work and believing in yourself. "You know what?" she said, kneeling down to Marcus's level, even though her knees protested. "I believe you. I believe you're going to give it everything you have. And win or lose, I'm proud of you. Not for the trophy, but for the dedication, for the hours of practice, for not giving up." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "You really believe I can do it?" "I really do." He hugged her again, and Evelyn felt something crack open in her chest. This was what James had been trying to tell her. This moment right here, believing in someone, showing up for them, being present. This was what mattered. When they returned to the others, James and Patricia were deep in conversation. Evelyn caught the tail end of it. "So important for kids to have that kind of support," James was saying. "The statistics on children with involved grandparents are remarkable. Better academic performance, higher self-esteem, stronger emotional resilience." "You seem to know a lot about child development," Patricia said. "I've worked with a lot of young people over the years," James said carefully. "I've seen firsthand how much difference family support makes." Tyler had been quiet, observing James with intense curiosity. Finally, he couldn't contain himself any longer. "Are you famous?" he asked bluntly. "Tyler," Patricia scolded, but James just laughed. "What makes you think I might be famous?" "Because Marcus is acting weird," Tyler said, pointing at his brother. "He keeps staring at you with his mouth open. He only does that when he sees someone from basketball on TV." All eyes turned to Marcus, whose face had gone bright red. I don't, Marcus stammered. James stood and walked over to Marcus. He bent down slightly and spoke quietly, though everyone could hear. "Marcus, I'd appreciate it if we could keep this between us for now. Tomorrow is about you and your team, not about me. Deal?" Marcus nodded vigorously. "Deal. I promise. I won't tell anyone." "Tell anyone what?" Tyler demanded. "Nothing," Marcus said quickly. "Just guy stuff." Patricia looked between her son and James, clearly confused but polite enough not to press. Evelyn watched the exchange with growing curiosity. She'd suspected from the beginning that James was someone important, but seeing Marcus's reaction confirmed it. Who was this man, really? And why was he going to such lengths to help her? James left shortly after, declining Patricia's offer to stay in their guest room. "I have a hotel nearby," he said, "but I'll be back tomorrow afternoon for the game. 4:30, right?" 4:30, Marcus confirmed. "Game starts at 6. After James left, Patricia turned to her mother. "Mom, who is that man? Really?" "A friend," Evelyn said. "Someone who helped me when I needed it. Someone who reminded me how to live again." "He seems very kind," Patricia said, "and very mysterious." "He is both of those things." That night, Evelyn lay in Patricia's guest room, staring at the ceiling. Through the wall, she could hear Marcus and Tyler arguing about something in hushed whispers. She smiled. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. "Sleep well. Big day tomorrow." I'm proud of you for being there." Evelyn typed back, "Thank you. For everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." His response came quickly. "You already have. Watching you come back to life these past 2 weeks has been the greatest gift. Sweet dreams, Mrs. Hartwell." Evelyn set her phone down and closed her eyes. For the first time in 2 years, she fell asleep excited about tomorrow. Friday morning arrived with nervous energy. Marcus was up at dawn, pacing the house, shooting baskets in the driveway, even though frost covered the ground. "You need to eat breakfast," Patricia insisted. "You can't play on an empty stomach." "I'm too nervous to eat," Marcus said. "You're eating," Patricia said firmly, in that tone mothers use that brooks no argument. Evelyn spent the morning with Tyler, who showed her his extensive comic book collection and explained the intricate plots with passionate detail. She understood maybe half of what he said, but she loved watching his face light up. "Nobody else listens like you do, Grandma," Tyler said at one point. "That's because what you're saying is important," Evelyn replied. And she meant it. At 4:30 exactly, the black SUV pulled up outside. James emerged wearing dark jeans and a simple black sweater under his jacket. Still the cap and sunglasses, but Evelyn was getting used to them now. The drive to the school took 20 minutes. The parking lot was already packed with cars. Parents and students streamed toward the gymnasium, excitement crackling in the air. Inside, the gym was louder than Evelyn expected. Bleachers on both sides filled rapidly with families wearing team colors. The opposing team's fans wore red. Marcus's team, the Warriors, wore blue and gold. James guided Evelyn to seats in the front row, right behind the Warriors' bench. She could see everything from here: the polished court, the scoreboard, the basketball hoops at either end. "Is this okay?" James asked. "Not too close?" "It's perfect," Evelyn breathed. As they settled in, something strange began happening. People noticed James. Heads turned. Whispers started. A few brave souls approached, but James politely deflected each one, keeping his attention on Evelyn. "Sorry about this," he murmured. "It happens sometimes." "Who are you?" Evelyn asked again. But before he could answer, the teams burst through the doors for warm-ups, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Marcus was number 7. He ran onto the court with his teammates, his face set with determination. Then he spotted Evelyn in the front row. His whole face transformed. Pure joy. He waved at her, grinning so wide it must have hurt. Evelyn waved back, tears already forming. She was here. She was really here. "That's your grandson?" the woman next to Evelyn asked. "Number 7? "Yes," Evelyn said proudly. "That's my Marcus. He's an incredible player," the woman said. "Best on the team. My son says Marcus never gives up, no matter what." Evelyn's heart swelled. She glanced at James, who was watching the warm-ups with the focused intensity of someone who knew exactly what he was looking at. "He's got good form," James observed. "Strong fundamentals. Someone's been coaching him well." The teams finished warming up and huddled with their coaches. The gymnasium lights seemed to brighten. The noise level climbed. The referee stood at center court, whistle in hand. Evelyn grabbed James's hand without thinking, her heart pounding. "Ready?" James asked with a smile. "Ready," Evelyn said. The whistle blew. The game began, and Evelyn Hartwell, who had spent 2 years just existing, was finally truly living again. The game started with an intensity that took Evelyn's breath away. The ball moved so fast she could barely follow it. Players ran up and down the court in a blur of motion. The crowd roared with every basket, groaned with every missed shot. Marcus was everywhere, stealing the ball, passing to teammates, driving toward the basket with that fierce determination Evelyn had seen in his photograph. "Watch how he reads the defense," James said, leaning close so she could hear over the noise. "See how he's always looking, always thinking 2 plays ahead? That's not just talent, that's basketball intelligence." Evelyn didn't fully understand what James meant, but she nodded, her eyes glued to her grandson. The first quarter ended with the Warriors down by 4 points. Marcus sat on the bench breathing hard, his coach talking to him intently. He looked frustrated. "He's being too hard on himself," James observed. "He thinks he has to do everything alone." As the second quarter began, Evelyn saw what James meant. Marcus tried to make impossible shots instead of passing to open teammates. He pushed himself to exhaustion, running harder, jumping higher, as if sheer will could overcome the point deficit. The Warriors fell further behind, down by 7, then 9. At halftime, the score was Warriors 28, Lincoln Middle School 38. 10 points down, Marcus sat on the bench with his head in his hands. Even from where she sat, Evelyn could see his shoulders shaking. Was he crying? "Can I go to him?" Evelyn asked James urgently. "Not during halftime," James said gently. "He needs to work this out with his team. But watch, this is where we see what he's really made of." The third quarter was brutal. The Lincoln team had a tall player, number 23, who seemed to block every shot Marcus attempted. The frustration on her grandson's face was painful to watch. With 3 minutes left in the third quarter, Marcus missed an easy layup. The ball bounced off the rim and a Lincoln player grabbed the rebound. The opposing team scored on a fast break. Warriors 42, Lincoln 52. 10 points down again, with only 1 quarter left to play. Marcus called a timeout. His coach looked angry, but Marcus wasn't looking at the coach. He was looking directly at Evelyn. Their eyes met across the court, and in that moment, Evelyn did something she'd never done before. She stood up, placed her hand over her heart, and pointed at Marcus. Then she pointed at his teammates. The message was clear. You're not alone. You have them. Trust them. Marcus's face changed. Understanding dawned. He nodded once firmly, then turned to his teammates in the huddle. Evelyn sat back down, her heart pounding. James was looking at her with something like awe. "That," he said softly, "was perfect." The fourth quarter began differently. Marcus stopped trying to do everything himself. He passed to his teammate Devin, who made a three-pointer. He set a screen so another teammate, Jason, could drive to the basket. He assisted, defended, and supported instead of trying to be the hero alone. The Warriors began to chip away at the lead. Down by 8, down by 6, down by 4. The crowd was on its feet now, the noise deafening. Evelyn found herself shouting along with everyone else, her voice hoarse but strong. James stood beside her, explaining plays when he could, but mostly just watching with that intense focus. With 2 minutes left, the score was tied at 58. The tension in the gymnasium was unbearable. Every possession mattered. Every shot could determine the game. Lincoln scored. Warriors 58, Lincoln 60. Marcus brought the ball down the court. The tall player, number 23, was guarding him closely. Too closely. Marcus couldn't get a clear shot, but instead of forcing it, Marcus passed to Devin on the wing. Devin was wide open. He shot. The ball arced through the air and swished through the net. Tied again. 60-60. 30 seconds left. Lincoln had possession. They ran down the clock, trying to get the last shot. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. Number 23 went up for a shot, but Marcus, impossibly, jumped higher and knocked the ball away. It bounced loose. Jason grabbed it. 5 seconds left. Jason passed to Marcus. Marcus was at half court. Too far. Way too far. But there was no time for anything else. Evelyn grabbed James's arm so hard she'd probably leave bruises. The entire gymnasium seemed to hold its breath. Marcus dribbled once, set his feet. The defender rushed at him. 3 seconds. Marcus jumped. The ball left his hands, spinning in that perfect, practiced rotation. 2 seconds. The ball flew through the air in what seemed like slow motion. Everyone watched its arc, the impossible distance it had to travel. 1 second. The buzzer sounded, a harsh, final blare. But the ball was still in the air. Time froze. The world stopped. Every eye in the gymnasium tracked that spinning orange sphere. It hit the rim. Evelyn's heart stopped. The ball bounced once. "Please," she prayed. "Please," it bounced twice. Marcus stood at half court, hands still raised in his follow-through, watching. The ball wobbled on the rim, and then it fell. Through. The gymnasium exploded. Parents screamed. Students rushed the court. The Warriors' bench cleared, players piling on top of each other in a massive joy and disbelief. Marcus disappeared under his teammates, everyone shouting and crying and laughing at once. Warriors 63, Lincoln 60, champions. Evelyn was crying so hard she could barely see, laughing and crying at the same time. She turned to James and threw her arms around him without thinking, and he hugged her back, laughing too. "He did it," she sobbed. "He really did it." "I knew he would," James said, his voice thick with emotion. "I knew it." The celebration on the court continued. The coach was presented with a large trophy. The players each received medals. But Marcus, breaking away from his teammates, ran straight to the bleachers. Straight to Evelyn. She met him at the edge of the court, and he lifted her off her feet in a hug that probably looked ridiculous. This tall, lanky boy holding his small grandmother like she weighed nothing. "You came," he kept saying. "You were here. You saw it." "I saw it, sweetheart," Evelyn said, cupping his face in her hands. "I saw all of it. You were magnificent. Not just the last shot, all of it. The way you trusted your teammates, the way you never gave up." Marcus was crying now too, tears streaming down his young face. "I couldn't have done it without you here. I was going to give up. But then I saw you and I remembered what you always say, that I need to work with my team, not alone." Evelyn blinked. "I said that. In your letters, the birthday cards you send. You always write about teamwork and supporting each other." Marcus wiped his eyes. "I kept them all, Grandma. Every single one. And I read them before games." She'd had no idea. Those simple cards she'd sent, the brief messages she'd struggled to write because she never knew what to say, he'd kept them. He'd read them. They'd mattered. James had stepped back to give them space, but now Marcus noticed him. The boy's eyes went wide again, and this time he couldn't contain himself. "Grandma," Marcus whispered urgently, "do you know who that is?" "That's my friend James," Evelyn said. "He's the one who brought me here." "That's not James," Marcus said, his voice rising with excitement. "That's—" But before he could finish, the coach approached. He was a stocky man with a whistle around his neck and a huge grin on his face. "Marcus, get over here for the team photo." Then he noticed James standing nearby. The coach's eyes widened. His jaw dropped. The whistle fell from his mouth. "Mr. Jordan," the coach said, his voice strangled. Are you Michael Jordan?" The noise in the gymnasium didn't stop, but something shifted. Heads turned. Phones came out. The whisper started at one end of the bleachers and spread like wildfire. "Is that Michael Jordan?" "It can't be." "Oh my God, it is! Michael Jordan is here." Michael, pulled off his sunglasses and baseball cap. There was no point hiding anymore. He ran a hand over his head and smiled that famous smile that had been on posters and commercials and magazine covers for decades. "Hello, coach," he said, extending his hand. "Great game. Your team showed real character out there." The coach shook his hand numbly, too starstruck to speak. Evelyn stood frozen, her mind reeling. Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player who ever lived, according to Harold, who had watched him play for years. She'd been drinking tea with Michael Jordan in her tiny apartment. He'd carried her groceries up 3 flights of stairs. He'd called her every night for 2 weeks. He'd flown her on a private plane to watch her grandson play basketball. Michael Jordan had done all of that. For her. A crowd was forming now. Students, parents, teachers, everyone pressing closer, phones out, voices rising in excited disbelief. "Can I get a picture? Mr. Jordan, can you sign this? I can't believe you're here." But Michael kept his attention on Evelyn and Marcus. He put a gentle hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said quietly, "are you all right?" She looked up at him, really looked at him for the first time without the disguise of cap and sunglasses. The face that had been on her television so many times when Harold watched old Bulls games. The man her husband had admired so much. "Michael Jordan," she whispered. "You're Michael Jordan." "I am," he confirmed. "But I'm also James. Everything I told you was true. Every conversation we had, every word, that was real. That was me. Does it change anything?" Evelyn thought about the man who'd helped her cross the street, the man who'd listened to her stories and shared his own regrets, the man who'd called her every evening and made her feel seen, the man who'd brought her here to watch her grandson achieve his dream. "No," she said firmly, finding her voice. "It doesn't change anything. You were kind to me as James, and you're kind to me as Michael. That's what matters. You helped me remember how to live. You showed up when I needed someone. That's who you are. Famous or not. Michael's face broke into a genuine, relieved smile. Thank you for seeing me, the real me, not just the legend. Marcus had been standing there with his mouth open the entire time. Now he finally found his voice. You helped my grandma cross the street? Michael turned to Marcus, and his expression became serious. I did, and she changed my life. She reminded me why I do this, why any of us should do this. Look out for each other. Help each other. Use whatever we've been given to make a difference. He put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. You've got talent, kid. Real talent. But you know what I saw out there today? I saw character. I saw someone who learned to trust his teammates instead of trying to do everything alone. That's what makes a champion. Not the talent, the character. Marcus looked like he might pass out. You watched me play? I did. And you impressed me. That last shot? Michael smiled. That took guts. But more importantly, the way you played that fourth quarter after you talked to your grandmother? That showed wisdom. You're 12 years old and you already understand what took me years to learn. Basketball is a team sport. Life is a team sport. The crowd was pressing closer now and Michael's expression shifted. He looked at the gymnasium entrance where security guards were trying to manage the growing chaos. Listen, he said to Evelyn and Marcus, I need to do this the right way. Let me talk to some people, sign some things, take some pictures. But after? He looked at Evelyn. Can I take you all to dinner? I'd like to spend more time with your family if that's okay. Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk. I'd like that, Evelyn said. Michael nodded to someone Evelyn hadn't noticed before. A large man in a dark suit who'd been standing off to the side. Security, she realized. The man moved forward, creating a buffer between Michael and the crowd. Before he turned to address his growing audience, Michael pulled Evelyn into a hug. Thank you, he whispered in her ear, for reminding me what's important, for letting me help, for seeing past the fame to the person underneath. Thank you, Evelyn whispered back, for seeing me when I felt invisible. Then Michael stepped away, and the crowd surged forward. He handled it with practiced grace, shaking hands, signing autographs, posing for photos. But every few minutes, his eyes would find Evelyn across the gymnasium, checking to make sure she was okay. Patricia appeared at Evelyn's side, her face pale with shock. Mom! Mom! That's Michael Jordan. You've been friends with Michael Jordan this whole time. I've been friends with a kind man who helped me when I needed it, Evelyn corrected. The fact that he's also Michael Jordan is, well, it's surprising, yes, but it doesn't change what he did for me, what he's done for us. Marcus stood between them, clutching his championship medal, his eyes tracking Michael's every move. Grandma, he said softly, can you tell me everything? How you met him? What he said to you? Everything? Evelyn smiled. Let's go home. I'll tell you the whole story. But before they left, Evelyn looked across the gymnasium one more time. Michael was surrounded by people, but he must have felt her gaze because he looked up. Their eyes met. He placed his hand over his heart, the same gesture she'd given to Marcus during the game, and nodded once. The message was clear. Thank you. You matter. This meant something. Evelyn placed her hand over her own heart and nodded back. Then she took Marcus's hand on one side and Patricia's on the other, and together they walked out of the gymnasium. The story would make headlines the next day. Michael Jordan makes surprise appearance at middle school championship. The photos would go viral. The speculation would run wild. But for Evelyn, none of that mattered. What mattered was Marcus's hand in hers, Patricia's arm around her shoulders, Tyler chattering excitedly about meeting a real superhero. What mattered was that she'd kept her promise to Harold. She was living again, not just existing, and she'd done it with help from a stranger who became a friend, who just happened to be Michael Jordan. They waited in Patricia's car in the school parking lot for almost an hour. The crowd in the gymnasium had grown even larger once word spread that Michael Jordan was inside. News vans pulled up. Parents who'd left immediately after the game rushed back. The entire scene had transformed into something extraordinary. Marcus pressed his face against the car window, watching the chaos. This is insane. Michael Jordan came to my game. Michael Jordan? He came for Grandma, Tyler corrected, looking at Evelyn with new admiration. He's Grandma's friend. How did you even meet him? Patricia asked for the third time. She still looked stunned, like someone had hit her over the head with surprising news. So Evelyn told them the whole story from beginning to end. Standing at that intersection, unable to cross. The tall man with the baseball cap who'd offered to help. The walk to her apartment. The tea. The phone calls every evening at 7 o'clock. The way he'd listened to her stories and shared his own regrets. The way he'd made her feel seen. I didn't know who he was, Evelyn said. I just knew he was kind, that he genuinely cared. That talking to him made me feel less alone. But didn't you recognize him? Marcus asked. His face is everywhere. I'm 76 years old, sweetheart. I don't watch much television these days. And he wore sunglasses and a cap pulled low. I knew he seemed familiar, but I thought that was just because he reminded me of kindness itself. She smiled. Besides, I wasn't looking at his fame. I was looking at his heart. Patricia wiped her eyes. Mom, do you realize what this means? Michael Jordan sought you out. He helped you. He's been calling you every night. He flew you here on his private plane. He watched Marcus's game. That's not just kindness, that's extraordinary. He told me about his mother, Evelyn said quietly, about how she was lonely at the end, how he wished he'd been there more. I think helping me was his way of honoring her memory, of doing for me what he couldn't do enough of for her. The car fell silent. Even the boys seemed to understand the weight of that. Finally, Evelyn's phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Meet me at Angelo's Italian restaurant on Maple Street. Private room reserved. Just family. See you in 20 minutes. Patricia put the address into her GPS, and they drove through Seattle's evening streets. The restaurant was small and elegant, tucked into a quiet neighborhood far from the chaos they'd just left. A man in a dark suit stood outside the entrance. More security, Evelyn realized. He nodded as they approached and opened the door. Inside, Angelo himself greeted them, a portly man with a thick Italian accent and a warm smile. Ah, Mrs. Hartwell, Mr. Jordan said to expect you. Please, please, come this way. He led them through the main dining room to a private space in the back. The room was cozy and warm, with dark wood paneling and soft lighting. A long table was set for 6, with candles flickering and the smell of garlic and fresh bread filling the air. Michael stood when they entered. He changed into a simple button-down shirt and slacks. Without the cap and sunglasses, he looked both more imposing and more human at the same time. Thank you for coming, he said, gesturing to the table. Please sit. Order anything you want. Tonight is a celebration. Marcus moved toward the seat next to Michael like a magnet pulled to steel, but then he hesitated, suddenly shy. It's okay, Michael said with a gentle smile. Sit next to me. I want to hear all about that winning shot. The whole thought process. As they settled in and looked at menus, Tyler couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. Mr. Jordan, call me Michael, he interrupted gently. Michael, Tyler tried again, the name sounding strange in his young voice. Why did you help our grandma? Like really? Was it just because of your mom? Tyler, Patricia scolded. That's rude. But Michael held up a hand. No, it's a fair question, and he deserves an honest answer. He set down his menu and looked directly at Tyler. I helped your grandmother because she needed help, and I was there. That's the first reason, the simplest one. We should help people when we can. He paused, collecting his thoughts. But you're right that it was also about my mother. She taught me that no matter how successful you become, no matter how much money you make or how famous you get, you're still just a person, and people need each other. They need connection. They need to be seen. Michael's voice grew softer. My mother spent the last years of her life more alone than she should have been. Not because people didn't love her, but because everyone, including me, was too busy, too caught up in our own lives. And by the time I realized how isolated she'd become, how much she needed just simple human connection, I was almost too late. He looked at Evelyn. When I saw Mrs. Hartwell standing at that intersection, struggling with her grocery bags, I saw my mother. I saw someone who deserved help, who deserved to be seen, who deserved to matter to someone, and I had the chance to do something about it. So I did. The table was silent except for the soft Italian music playing in the background. But it became more than that, Michael continued. Your grandmother gave me something I didn't know I needed. She talked to me like I was just a person, not Michael Jordan the legend, but just a man named James who was trying to help. She shared her stories, her pain, her fears. And in doing that, she reminded me why any of this. He gestured vaguely, encompassing his fame, his success, his life, matters. It only matters if we use it to make a difference, to help people, to create connection. He turned to Marcus. When your grandmother told me about you, about your dreams of playing basketball, about how she was afraid to encourage you because she didn't want you to be disappointed, that hit me hard. Because I've seen so many talented kids give up because nobody believed in them. And I've seen kids with less talent go further because someone did believe. Marcus listened with rapt attention, his championship medal still around his neck. So yes, Michael concluded, looking at Tyler, I helped your grandmother because of my mother. But I kept helping her. I became her friend because she reminded me what it means to be human, to be vulnerable, to need people and let them need you back. She gave me as much as I gave her, maybe more. Evelyn felt tears sliding down her cheeks again. How many times had she cried today? Angelo himself brought their food, steaming plates of pasta, fresh salads, warm bread that melted in your mouth. As they ate, the conversation flowed naturally. Michael asked the boys about school, their interests, their dreams. He listened to Tyler explain a complicated comic book storyline with the same attention he'd given Evelyn's stories. You're really into these characters, Michael observed. Have you ever thought about creating your own comic book? Tyler's eyes went wide. I've tried, but I'm not very good at drawing. So find someone who is good at drawing, Michael said. You write the stories. Someone else does the art. That's how it works in the industry. You don't have to do everything alone. You just need to know your strengths and find people whose strengths complement yours. It was the same lesson he'd tried to teach Marcus on the court. Teamwork, collaboration, using your strengths and letting others use theirs. Patricia caught Evelyn's eye across the table. Mother and daughter shared a look of wonder and gratitude. When the main course was finished, Michael pulled out his phone. Marcus, I want to show you something. He opened a video and turned the phone toward Marcus. It was footage from tonight's game. The final seconds. Marcus's impossible shot, the ball bouncing on the rim. I had someone record this for you, Michael explained. Not the whole game. That's yours to remember however you want. But this moment, this is the moment you'll tell your own kids about someday. The shot that won the championship. Marcus watched the video 3 times, his face glowing with pride and disbelief. But you know what I want you to remember, even more than this shot? Michael said, pausing the video on the frame where Marcus's teammates were rushing to embrace him. This, look at their faces. Look at how happy they are. Not for themselves, for you, for the team. That's what basketball is really about. That's what life is really about. He leaned forward. You're talented, Marcus, really talented. And if you keep working hard, if you stay dedicated, you could play at high levels. College, maybe beyond. But talent alone won't get you there. You need character. You need to be someone your teammates trust. Someone who makes the people around you better. That's what separates good players from great ones. Like you, Marcus breathed. Michael smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. I was talented, yes, but I wasn't always the teammate I should have been. I pushed people hard, sometimes too hard. I won a lot, but I also hurt some people along the way. If I could go back, I'd be more patient, more understanding. More focused on building people up instead of just demanding excellence. He looked around the table at all of them. That's the real reason I do what I do now. Working with kids, running basketball camps, trying to help young athletes. I'm trying to teach them what I learned too late. That being great at a sport matters less than being a good person. That the relationships you build matter more than the trophies you win. That showing up for people, really showing up, is more important than any game. Dessert arrived. Tiramisu and cannoli that tasted like heaven. As they ate, Michael turned to Patricia. Your mother told me you don't get to see each other as much as you'd like. Patricia looked guilty. I know, I should call more, visit more. I just get so caught up in life, Michael finished. I understand. I lived that way for years. But can I share something I learned? He glanced at Evelyn. The people we love won't be here forever, and one day you'll look back and wish you'd made time. Wish you'd called more often. Wish you'd chosen connection over convenience. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. You're right. I know you're right. Your mother is remarkable, Michael continued. She's strong and resilient and full of stories worth hearing. Don't let fear or busyness rob you of the chance to know her better. Trust me, you'll never regret spending more time with the people you love, but you will regret the times you didn't. I'll do better, Patricia promised, reaching across the table to grasp Evelyn's hand. I promise, Mom. I'll do better. Evelyn squeezed her daughter's hand. And I promise to stop making excuses, to stop assuming I'm a burden, to say yes when you invite me instead of automatically saying no. Michael nodded approvingly. That's a start, for both of you. As the evening wound down, Angelo brought out a special surprise. A small cake decorated with a basketball and the words champions. Michael had arranged it ahead of time. This isn't just for Marcus, Michael explained as Angelo set the cake on the table. This is for all of you. Mrs. Hartwell, you're a champion for choosing to live again, for showing up today, for keeping your promise to Harold. Patricia, you're a champion for opening your home and your heart to making your family closer. Tyler, you're a champion for being yourself, curious and creative and honest. And Marcus, he looked at the boy with genuine affection. You're a champion not because of that last shot, but because of what you learned today about trust and teamwork and character. They cut the cake together, Marcus holding the knife while Michael's large hand covered his, guiding the cut. The moment was caught on Patricia's phone, a memory frozen in time. As they prepared to leave, Michael pulled Evelyn aside. Mrs. Hartwell, I have something for you. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a card with a phone number. This is my personal number, Michael said quietly. Not James's number, though that works too. This is the number my family uses. My close friends, the people who matter most to me. He paused. You're one of those people now. You can call anytime, day or night. If you need anything at all, you call me. Promise. Evelyn's hands trembled as she held the card. Michael, I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep living. Say you'll keep showing up for Marcus and Tyler. Say you'll call Patricia more often and let her call you. Say you'll honor Harold by choosing joy when you can find it. His eyes were intense. And say you'll remember that you're not invisible. You matter. You've always mattered. I promise, Evelyn whispered. Michael pulled her into a hug, a real hug, warm and genuine and full of the affection that had grown between them over the past 2 weeks. Thank you, he said into her silver hair. Thank you for reminding me why I do this, why any of us should do this. You changed my life, Mrs. Hartwell. You changed mine, she replied. Before they left, Michael had one more surprise. He pulled out a basketball, official NBA leather, perfectly worn. Marcus, he said, holding it out. This is for you, but I want you to use it. Don't put it on a shelf. Take it to the park. Practice with it. Let it remind you of what you learned today. That greatness comes from character, from teamwork, from never giving up. Marcus took the ball with shaking hands. Then he looked up at his hero, his grandmother's friend, with tears streaming down his face. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll never forget this. Any of this. Good, Michael said, ruffling Marcus's hair. Neither will I. Outside, as they prepared to get into Patricia's car, Michael called out one more time. Mrs. Hartwell. Evelyn turned back. Same time tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I want to hear how the rest of your weekend goes. Evelyn smiled, a real smile, full and bright and alive. I'll be waiting for your call. As they drove away, Evelyn looked back through the rear window. Michael stood outside the restaurant, his hand raised in farewell, security around him, but his eyes only on her. She waved back. This woman who had felt invisible just 2 weeks ago. This woman who had been too afraid to hope. This woman who a stranger, a kind, mysterious stranger, had helped across the street and in doing so, helped her find her way back to life. "Grandma," Marcus said from the back seat, his voice full of wonder. "You're friends with Michael Jordan?" "Yes," Evelyn said, turning back to face forward. "Yes, I am. But more importantly, I'm friends with a man named James who saw me when I needed to be seen, who reminded me that it's never too late to choose connection over fear, who helped me remember how to live." She looked at her daughter, her grandsons, and felt her heart swell with love. "And now I'm here with all of you, right where I should be, right where I want to be." Patricia reached over and took her mother's hand. "We're so glad you're here, Mom. So glad you said yes." That night back at Patricia's house, Evelyn lay in the guest room, thinking about everything that had happened. Her phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Thank you for today, for letting me be part of your family's moment." "Sleep well, my friend," she texted back. "Thank you for everything. You gave me my life back." His response was immediate. "You gave me something too, a reminder of what matters, a friend who sees past the fame, a reason to keep doing better. Sweet dreams, Mrs. Hartwell." Evelyn set the phone down and looked at the ceiling. Through the wall, she could hear Marcus and Tyler talking excitedly, reliving every moment of the game and the dinner. Down the hall, Patricia and her husband spoke in low, happy voices. She was surrounded by family, by love, by life, and it had all started with a simple act of kindness on a busy Chicago street. A tall man in a baseball cap offering to help an old lady cross the street. No fanfare, no cameras, no recognition, just one human being seeing another human being and choosing to help. That's what the world needed more of, Evelyn thought as sleep began to claim her. Not grand gestures or viral moments or fame-seeking kindness. Just simple, honest, human connection. One person seeing another, one person helping another, one person reminding another that they matter. Michael Jordan had done that for her, and now inspired by his example, she would do it for others. She would call Patricia more. She would believe in Marcus's dreams. She would say yes instead of no. She would choose life over fear. She would live, not just exist, but truly live. Because that's what Harold had wanted. That's what James, Michael, had taught her. And that's what she owed to herself and to everyone who loved her. As Evelyn drifted off to sleep, her last thought was of that moment on the street 2 weeks ago. The moment everything changed. The moment a stranger became a friend. The moment she learned that sometimes the most extraordinary things begin with the most ordinary acts of kindness. And sometimes the person who helps you cross the street is exactly the person you needed to meet. Not because of who they are to the world, but because of who they are to you. Michael Jordan had helped an old lady cross the street. No one realized who he was until the end. But in the end, it didn't matter. What mattered was the connection, the kindness, the reminder that we all need each other. That fame and fortune mean nothing without humanity. That the greatest gift we can give each other is simply showing up, being present, caring. That was the real victory. Not the basketball game, though that was wonderful. Not meeting someone famous, though that was extraordinary. The real victory was a woman finding her way back to life, a family growing closer, a boy learning what true greatness means, and a man honoring his mother's memory by being the person she taught him to be. The real victory was love with somewhere to go. Connection replacing isolation. Hope replacing fear. The real victory was choosing to live. And it all started with a simple question on a busy Chicago street. "Ma'am, would you like some help?" Yes, Evelyn thought as sleep finally took her. Yes, I would, and thank you for asking. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for everything. Thank you, James. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. So where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I'd love to know how far this message of kindness has reached. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us share more stories about real people doing extraordinary acts of kindness, because the world needs more reminders that simple gestures can change lives. And hey, don't stop here. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible story that will restore your faith in humanity. Let's keep spreading kindness together. See you in the next one.